All right, we've got a Microsoft event. We're also expecting some more events coming this year, but this one was kind of fun. And of course, we had Panos delivering in his typical way a bunch of new Microsoft products, some expected, some a little unexpected.
Yep.
I want to talk about Surface Duo 2 first, and then we'll talk about the laptop stuff.
Okay.
So we got the new Surface Duo finally.
Yep.
First Surface Duo, not so hot. You know, I reviewed it. It was a very expensive, beautifully folding, but incredibly dysfunctional piece of hardware. It ran Android. It was, what was it, $1,500? $16?
It was $1,500.
$1,500. Very expensive. Awful cameras, awful battery life, awful software. Great.
Yeah. It was a situation.
Yeah. So what happened was they stuck with it and they made a new one, which I'm glad. I'm glad they didn't just give up right away. So we have Surface Duo 2 now. It's running the latest chip. Nice. Snapdragon 888.
Yep.
8 gigs of RAM. It has a 90 hertz display.
Yep.
Or pair of displays.
A little better.
And these displays kind of curve over the inside edge in a way that when you close it, you can still read some edge display.
Notifications. Yeah.
So this is kind of neat. We saw something like this with the Galaxy Note Edge when it first came out, like tickers on the side of the display.
Yeah.
Now the camera on the back is really interesting. I haven't watched enough hands-on videos, but I remember with the first Surface Duo, it would fold over completely flat, and it was really nice that it could do that. Now that it has a camera bump on the back, I don't believe you can fold it perfectly flat anymore.
Yeah.
Which is, maybe that won't be as satisfying.
They are trying to mitigate it slightly though, because if you imagine that the camera bump was flat, when you would try to fold it over itself, it would push against the corner of the camera bump. So what they did was they angled the camera bump.
Oh, really?
So
that's smart.
It's angled now, and the camera bump itself has magnets in it now. So when it closes, when it folds over itself, it actually snaps to the camera bump.
Nice. Yeah. So it's not like on a corner or anything.
Yeah. It's still going to cause wobbling issues when you have it closed, which is not great, but you know, it is ugly. It's very ugly.
I remember when we first actually saw, I think it's still in our video, when we first saw the Surface Duo 1, we got a preview of it with Panos, and he showed us these hardware prototypes, and they ended up being the final version, but he also showed us some software on his personal one, and his personal one had a camera bump on the back. And he never talked about it. He just showed us some software on it and put it away. But it made it into the video, and people were wondering, wait, this one has a hardware camera bump, and it's matte black, and the others are just white with no camera bump. So they've been thinking about it.
Yep.
They finally did it. Is this new set of things going to save the Surface Duo?
Okay. So there's a wider thing with Microsoft products that I'll probably get into more later where... Look, this is, again, it's $1,500, $1,600.
It's still expensive. It's more expensive.
I think it's $100 more than it was last year, which is
bold.
Yeah, it's very bold considering it was that much. Personally, I like the additions they made. I think the ticker display is a good idea because I think the reason people are okay with buying foldable phones right now is that you can still use basic information while they're folded, right? You still have that ambient clock, that ambient information.
Yeah.
Problem with the Surface Duo, the original one, was you couldn't do anything with that thing while it was closed.
Exactly.
It was just a brick.
Yeah, that's a fundamental piece of why foldables are all different. It's because they all have different levels of usability when they're closed. Like the Galaxy Fold has a really usable outside screen.
Yeah.
The Z Flip has a small but kind of usable outside screen.
It's bigger now.
The Razer, we really like that bigger outside screen.
Display.
Nothing on the Surface.
Nothing on the original Surface Duo.
So this is a ticker now. Notifications, time.
Yeah.
You're not really interacting with it, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's still if you're at dinner and you need to glance at the time and it's sitting there.
You don't have to open it.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Right. And I've always been a proponent of technology that is only used when it needs to be used, but there's some information that you get from your technology that always needs to be available. It's like a smartwatch also always needs to be able to be a watch, right? So having that time there all the time is very useful. I like the curved display for that reason, and I think it makes the gap in between seem less big, especially when the thing is open.
Right.
The new cameras are good and bad.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen any sample photos yet, but
when I say good and bad, before. It's bad because of the bump and it's ugly and it's it adds some issues. You can't fold it flat.
Yeah.
good in that the technology that they were using last year was they had the one camera on the inside. You would fold it over itself, and when it detected you turning it, I guess, it would make the viewfinder the side that you were using, and then it would theoretically activate and it would switch the screens, but it never worked.
Exactly. I was going to say, in my experience, this was one of the least often working things in my entire tech experience last year. Is I want to just take a picture, and this thing is really hard to take a picture with.
Yeah, it was crazy hard to take a picture with. I just still feel like a dual screened device is not as functional as a foldable device. And I know that Microsoft, remember last year when they were beating this drum of the Surface Duo is not a phone, it's a device. But it's you're not going to carry a Duo and another phone.
That was a thought I kept seeing, is this was marketed or at least described as a companion device.
Yeah.
So you have your phone, but in your other pocket, I guess, you also have a Surface Duo that you usually use for most stuff. I don't know that I'd want to carry that much hardware. I mean, I'm guilty of carrying two phones all the time, but this I would want to spend that much money on one device and have it just be my only device. So the fact that phone calls are kind of tough because it's a weird shape and the aspect ratio is kind of weird, and I want a different shape for watching videos. It's it's a little bit of a compromise. I wonder if there are people who, I mean, I don't know. There's got to be groups of people who don't care that much about the outside display and will be fine with all right, productivity is my only goal with this device. I'll get one.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of those people there are.
It's just I think the way I think about it is the magic and beauty of the smartphone is that every year when smartphones were coming out, it seemed like every year it would replace another thing that we had, right? Slowly, the smartphone ate up all our other appliances to where we didn't have to carry a ton of stuff with us and we could just carry one thing. Why would you want to go the opposite direction? And the other thing is that it is a phone at the end of the day. It is a phone. It makes phone calls. It has a data connection.
Yep.
It is just redundant.
I put a SIM card in it.
Yeah. And the whole dual display thing versus singular display, Android has had multitasking features for years where you can put Chrome on this side and another app on this side. That is built into Android now. And Panos really wanted to tout it's magical to have information on one display, one app open on one display and another app open on the other display. Galaxy Fold, you can do that with 3 or 4 apps.
Right. I did feel a little bit sometimes what he was talking about, which is I use dual displays at my desktop.
Yeah,
and
totally.
It's fundamentally different from having an ultra wide. Just because I divide things differently, I have things up against the left bezel on the right monitor and the right bezel on the left monitor, and I organize things around two displays differently than I do around one huge display.
Yeah.
But the software has to really facilitate that, and that was a bit of a challenge. I don't know. I look at this device and I'm like, can we save this? I want this to keep going and get better. But the amount of things that I would have to change in order to save it in my own view is so long that I don't know that it's worth going. I would want it to have an outside display. I'd want it to have better cameras, better battery life. All this makes the thing way thicker. Suddenly it's this huge, chunky dual screen thing. Is it even sleek anymore?
Right.
I don't know.
A factor that I think will trickle down into the other devices as well that we talk about today is that as much as Microsoft makes products that sells them to consumers, I think a primary focus for it has always been enterprise. And in its mind, it's it doesn't really matter if these are $1,600, $1,500, because if a business buys them in bulk and gives them to their employees and they can do Microsoft Teams, it's and you can use Excel, then it doesn't matter how expensive they are. And you should actually make them more expensive because you'll make more money on that. And bigger businesses don't care about that because it's a tax write-off because they're using them as devices. So it's that's something that has always sort of conflicted with me in all of Microsoft's Surface products, is that it seems like they focus so much on the enterprise side.
They do.
That the consumers tend to suffer on the feature end.
Yeah, I do find myself reviewing a lot of things where I know it's not for me.
Yeah.
And this was another one where I open the thing up and it's sign into Microsoft Teams. Here's Excel. Here's the things, a whole bunch of things that I know work decently well that I just don't use.
Yeah.
And I'm all right, well, it's not going to be easy to recommend this to almost any regular person. But does that mean it shouldn't exist? I guess not. It could still exist, but it's tough. It's definitely tough.
It's like the OS last year on the Surface Duo 1 was just so, it was probably the glitchiest phone I've ever used in my entire life.
Ooh, top 5 for me. I don't know.
What was glitchier for you?
I got to think about, I mean, of the year, it was definitely tops up there. The Royal Flex Pi was a disaster, but it didn't really ever have any promise of being anything better than a disaster.
Sure.
Where this was like a $1,500 Microsoft product. I thought it would be better.
Flex Pi was never trying to be anything other than it was trying to be lately.
So I agree. It had its problems. But, we'll see. I'm going to get my hands on it still. I mean, it's going to come out. People will be able to buy it. It's going to exist. So stay tuned for the review.
And I will say, as someone who wears shirts with shirt pockets all the time, like the dream of like keeping your phone in your shirt pocket and have it be that thin, and like if you've seen the movie Her,
it's like a passport size.
Yeah, in the movie Her, phones are like the Duo, where they're little pocket books that look like passports in a way, and they have a little camera bump on the back, and you only you open it up like a clutch when you want to use it.
Okay.
And they're actually pretty cool. But and the main character keeps it in his shirt pocket, and then he can like stream to his AI assistant with video because it's peeking out of his shirt pocket. Anyway,
interesting.
It's great movie if you haven't seen it. But
we'll get our hands on the second one. We'll see how close.
I'm excited to play with it. We'll see if they can fix the software issues.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for watching this clip. There are others. You should watch those too, but also subscribe to the Clips channel if you haven't already to see more when they come out.
Is that possible?
It's possible. It's amazingly possible. There's a huge red button too.
Powered by
your finger.
Your finger.
And your mouse. And probably some chip maker at some point.
YouTube or something.
Yeah. See you over there.
Bye.